The intergalactic race, held once every century, was about to begin. Representatives from countless alien civilizations gathered near the galactic core, each bringing their most advanced starships to compete in this ultimate test of technology and skill. The sleek, gleaming vessels were marvels of engineering, boasting cutting-edge propulsion systems, impenetrable shields, and weapons that could vaporize planets. The air buzzed with excitement and anticipation as the contestants prepared for the start of the race. Amid the sea of high-tech alien ships, one vessel stood out like a sore thumb. It was an old, battered human starship, its hull pockmarked with dents and scorch marks from countless space battles. The ship, named the Odyssey, looked like it belonged in a museum rather than a race of the galaxy's most advanced spacecraft. As the human crew disembarked and made their way to the starting line, they were met with mocking laughter and derisive comments from the other contestants. "Look at that piece of junk," sneered a tall, green-skinned alien with 4 arms. "Do the humans really think they stand a chance with that relic? I'm surprised it even made it here without falling apart," chuckled another racer, his bulbous head bobbing with amusement. The human crew, led by Captain Alex Riker, ignored the taunts and focused on their pre-race checks. Riker was a seasoned veteran of the interstellar fleet, with a reputation for unorthodox tactics and a never-say-die attitude. Her crew, handpicked for their skills and adaptability, shared her determination to prove that humans belonged on the galactic stage. As the contestants took their positions at the starting line, a hush fell over the crowd. The race organizer, a floating, jellyfish-like being, hovered above the assembled ships and began the countdown. "Racers, prepare yourselves," it boomed in a voice that echoed across the void. "The intergalactic race begins in 10, 9, 8. Inside the Odyssey's cockpit, Riker gripped the controls, her eyes narrowed in concentration. Her crew, strapped into their seats, readied themselves for the challenge ahead. 3, 2, 1, go. With a burst of light and a roar of engines, the ships leaped forward, streaking across the star-studded backdrop of space. The Odyssey, despite its age, managed to keep pace with the pack, its sturdy engines propelling it forward with surprising speed. As the racers tore through the first leg of the course, a dense field of swirling gas clouds, the Odyssey's sensors began to flicker and fade. The ship's outdated systems struggled to cope with the electromagnetic interference, and for a moment, Riker feared they might lose their way. But her crew was ready. The navigator, a wiry man named Jack, quickly switched to backup systems, relying on his keen sense of direction and old-fashioned star charts to guide the ship through the murky clouds. Thanks to his skill, the Odyssey emerged from the gas field unscathed, while several of the more advanced ships veered off course, their sophisticated sensors confused by the interference. The next challenge was a treacherous asteroid field, a dense cluster of tumbling rocks that threatened to smash the ships to pieces. The Odyssey's rugged construction and reinforced hull allowed it to plow through the smaller asteroids, while the crew's expert piloting skills helped them dodge the larger ones. Some of the sleeker, more fragile alien ships weren't so lucky. Their advanced shields, designed to deflect energy weapons, did little against the brute force of the asteroids. Several ships were forced to drop out of the race, their hulls breached and their systems failing. As the remaining racers cleared the asteroid field, they found themselves facing a new danger, a massive solar flare erupting from a nearby star. The intense radiation and electromagnetic pulse threatened to fry the ship's delicate electronics and cook their crews alive. The Odyssey, however, was ready for this. Its old-fashioned, analog backup systems, long dismissed as obsolete by the other racers, proved their worth. While the alien ships scrambled to protect their high-tech systems, the Odyssey's crew simply switched to manual control and relied on their own skills to navigate through the storm. As the solar flare subsided, the Odyssey emerged unscathed, its crew a little shaken but otherwise unharmed. The same could not be said for many of the other racers. Several ships had been forced to drop out, their systems fried by the intense radiation. Others limped along, their crews struggling to repair the damage. The race continued, each new challenge testing the ships and their crews to their limits. Through it all, the Odyssey and its human crew persevered, relying on their ingenuity, adaptability, and sheer determination to overcome every obstacle. As the ships entered the final leg of the race, a long, straight shot through empty space to the finish line, the Odyssey found itself in a tight pack with a handful of the most advanced alien vessels. The sleek ships, their hulls gleaming in the starlight, looked like they belonged in a science fiction movie compared to the battered utilitarian design of the Odyssey. But looks could be deceiving. As the ships raced towards the finish line, pushing their engines to the limit, the Odyssey's crew had one last trick up their sleeves. With a few quick adjustments to the ship's fuel mixture and a daring bit of manual override, they coaxed a final burst of speed from the old engines. The Odyssey surged forward, its battered hull glowing red-hot as it pushed past the speeding alien ships. The crew held on tight, gritting their teeth against the bone-rattling vibrations as their ship gave everything it had. In the end, it was enough. The Odyssey crossed the finish line a full ship's length ahead of its nearest competitor, claiming victory in the intergalactic race. As the ship coasted to a stop, its engines sputtering and its hull cooling, the exhausted but elated crew erupted in cheers. The alien racers, once so dismissive of the humans and their outdated ship, could only watch in stunned silence as the Odyssey's crew disembarked to accept their prize. As Captain Riker stepped forward to shake hands with the race organizer, a slow clap began to ripple through the crowd. The clapping grew louder and louder until it was a thunderous applause. The aliens, humbled by the humans' achievement, finally recognized what the Odyssey's crew had known all along, that it wasn't just about having the most advanced technology, but about the skill, courage, and indomitable spirit of those who wielded it. As the cheers echoed across the stars, the human crew of the Odyssey basked in their triumph. They had proven, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that humanity had a place among the great civilizations of the galaxy. And they had done it not with the most cutting-edge ship, but with an old, battered vessel that had been deemed outdated by everyone else. It was a moment that would go down in history, a turning point in humanity's journey to the stars. And for Captain Riker and her crew, it was a moment they would never forget. They had faced the unknown, stared down impossible odds, and emerged victorious. They were the pride of Earth, the champions of the intergalactic race. As the Odyssey prepared to make its long journey home, its battle-scarred hull now a badge of honor, the crew knew that they had not just won a race, but had taken a giant leap forward for all of humanity. And they knew that, no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, as a team, ready to take on the universe and win. As the Odyssey and its crew basked in the glory of their unexpected victory, the ship's sensors suddenly blared an urgent warning. Captain Riker rushed to the control panel, her eyes widening as she saw the readouts. A massive solar storm was rapidly approaching, threatening to engulf the racers in a maelstrom of charged particles and radiation. The other ships, their crews still reeling from the shock of the humans' triumph, scrambled to prepare for the impending danger. But the Odyssey's crew, battle-hardened and quick to adapt, was already in motion. Jack, the navigator, plotted a course that would take them through the heart of the storm, using the ship's sturdy construction and reinforced shielding to protect them from the worst of the tempest. As the solar storm struck, the racers found themselves tossed about like leaves in a hurricane. The advanced alien ships, their sleek hulls and delicate systems ill-suited for such brutal conditions, began to falter. Some were torn apart by the sheer force of the charged particles, their crews lost to the unforgiving void of space. Others, their systems fried by the intense radiation, drifted helplessly, their hopes of victory dashed. But the Odyssey, its rugged frame and jury-rigged shielding holding strong, pushed through the maelstrom. Riker and her crew worked tirelessly, making constant adjustments to keep their ship on course and their systems running. It was a testament to their skill and determination that they managed to stay intact, even as the storm raged around them. As the solar storm finally began to subside, the Odyssey emerged from the chaos, battered but unbroken. The crew, exhausted but elated, took stock of their situation. They had made it through, but at a cost. The ship's systems were strained to the limit, and they would need to make repairs before they could continue the race. As they set to work, the crew received an unexpected hail from one of the few remaining alien ships. It was a Zorgian vessel, its angular hull scored with scorch marks from the storm. The Zorgian captain, a tall insectoid being with glittering compound eyes, appeared on the view screen. "Human ship, we have sustained critical damage," the Zorgian clicked, its mandibles twitching with distress. "Our engines are failing, and our life support systems are barely functioning. We require assistance." Riker and her crew exchanged glances. They were in the middle of a race, and stopping to help a competitor could cost them precious time. But the human values of compassion and unity ran deep, even in the depths of space. "We'll be right there," Riker replied, her voice firm with resolve. "Prepare to receive our engineering team." As the Odyssey pulled alongside the stricken Zorgian ship, the human crew worked tirelessly to repair the damage, sharing their knowledge and resources with their alien counterparts. It was a display of interspecies cooperation that had been all too rare in the history of the galaxy. As the repairs were completed and the Zorgian ship was ready to continue the race, the insectoid captain expressed its gratitude. "You have saved not only our ship, but our lives." It clicked, its compound eyes shimmering with emotion. "We will not forget this act of kindness." With the Zorgian ship back in the race, the Odyssey's crew turned their attention to their own repairs. They worked around the clock, jury-rigging replacement parts from whatever materials they could scrounge, relying on their ingenuity and determination to keep their ship running. As the race resumed, word began to spread of the humans' selfless act. The other aliens, once so dismissive of the upstart species, began to see them in a new light. Grudging respect replaced derision, and the Odyssey found itself the recipient of unexpected offers of assistance and cooperation from their fellow racers. The next leg of the race took the ships through the heart of the Vorax Nebula, a swirling mass of gas and dust that played havoc with sensors and communication arrays. The advanced alien ships, their systems still recovering from the solar storm, struggled to navigate the treacherous currents and eddies. But the Odyssey, its crew having jury-rigged analog backup systems, forged ahead. They relied on their own senses and intuition, guided by the steady hand of Captain Riker and the keen eyes of Navigator Jack. As they emerged from the nebula, they found themselves in the lead, having passed several of the more advanced ships that had become lost in the cosmic fog. The race was entering its final stages, and the Odyssey's crew knew that they had a real chance at victory. But they also knew that the greatest challenges still lay ahead, and that they would need every ounce of their skill, courage, and unity to see them through. As they prepared for the next leg of the race, a daring dash through the heart of a dying star, the crew of the Odyssey took a moment to reflect on how far they had come. They had started as underdogs, dismissed and derided by the other racers, but through their determination, their adaptability, and their unwavering commitment to each other, they had proven themselves to be true contenders. They knew that the road ahead would be perilous, that they would face challenges and dangers beyond anything they had encountered before. But they also knew that they would face them together, as a team, united in their resolve to show the galaxy what humanity was truly capable of. As the Odyssey lined up for the next phase of the race, its engines humming with power, its crew ready for whatever lay ahead, Captain Riker felt a surge of pride, not just in her ship and her crew, but in her species. They had come so far, from the early days of reaching for the stars to now, competing on the galactic stage. And she knew that, no matter what happened in this race, humanity would continue to reach, to explore, to push the boundaries of what was possible. The Odyssey leaped forward, its battered hull glinting in the starlight, a symbol of human resilience and spirit. The crew, their hearts pounding with excitement and determination, ready to face the unknown, to brave the dangers of the cosmos, to prove to the galaxy and to themselves that they were ready for whatever challenges the universe could throw at them. The intergalactic race continued, the old, outdated human ship and its valiant crew charging ahead, ready to make history or go down trying. It was a moment that would be remembered for generations, a testament to the indomitable will of the human spirit, a shining example of what could be achieved when courage, ingenuity, and unity were put to the test. The galaxy watched, and the galaxy marveled, as the Odyssey and its crew raced on, into the heart of the cosmos and into legend. As the intergalactic race entered its next stage, the remaining ships found themselves faced with a new and unexpected challenge. A distress signal had been picked up from a remote corner of the racecourse, emanating from the wreckage of a ship belonging to a species known as the Xanthians. The Xanthians were a proud and technologically advanced race, known for their sleek, powerful ships and their arrogant demeanor. They had been among the favorites to win the race, and their sudden disappearance from the competition had been a source of much speculation and concern. As the Odyssey and the other ships approached the source of the distress signal, they were greeted by a shocking sight. The Xanthian ship, once a marvel of advanced technology, lay in ruins, its hull breached and its systems failing. It was clear that it had fallen victim to a surprise attack, the work of the notorious space pirates who preyed on unwary ships in this lawless region of space. Captain Riker and her crew knew that they had to act fast. The Xanthians, for all their arrogance and bluster, were still a sentient species, and the thought of leaving them to die in the cold depths of space was unthinkable. But the pirates, with their advanced weapons and ruthless tactics, posed a serious threat to any ship that dared to intervene. Riker made the decision to mount a rescue mission. She knew that it would put her own ship and crew at risk, and that it could cost them valuable time in the race. But she also knew that it was the right thing to do, and that the values of compassion and unity that had brought them this far could not be abandoned now. As the Odyssey moved in to dock with the stricken Xanthian ship, the other racers hung back, unwilling to risk their own vessels in what seemed like a hopeless cause. But Riker was undeterred. She assembled a boarding party, led by her intrepid security chief, a grizzled veteran named Mikhail, and prepared to confront the pirates head-on. The battle was fierce and bloody, the pirates using every dirty trick in their arsenal to try to repel the human boarders. But Mikhail and his team were relentless, fighting their way through the pirate ranks with a combination of skill, courage, and sheer determination. As the fighting raged, Riker and her engineering crew worked tirelessly to stabilize the Xanthian ship and evacuate its wounded crew members. It was a race against time, as the ship's systems failed one by one, and the pirates pressed their attack ever harder. But in the end, the humans prevailed. The last of the pirates were driven off or captured, and the Xanthian crew was safely evacuated to the Odyssey. As the two ships disengaged and prepared to rejoin the race, the Xanthian captain, a tall, regal figure with piercing eyes, approached Riker. "I must admit, I did not expect such bravery and selflessness from a human," the captain said, his voice tinged with grudging respect. "You have saved the lives of my crew, and for that, I am in your debt." Riker nodded, her face etched with exhaustion, but also with pride. "We may be competitors in this race," she said, "but we are all part of the same galactic community. We must stand together against those who would prey on the weak and the vulnerable." The Xanthian captain nodded, a newfound understanding dawning in his eyes. "Indeed," he said, "perhaps there is more to your species than I had given you credit for." As the two ships parted ways, the Odyssey's crew knew that they had lost precious time in the race. But they also knew that they had gained something far more valuable: the respect and admiration of their fellow racers, and a newfound sense of purpose and unity. The news of the humans' daring rescue spread quickly through the fleet, and soon the Odyssey found itself at the center of a new dynamic in the race. The other ships, once so fiercely competitive, began to see the value in cooperation and mutual aid. Alliances were formed, resources were shared, and the race began to take on a new character, one of camaraderie and shared purpose. For Captain Riker and her crew, it was a vindication of everything they had fought for. They had come into this race as outsiders, dismissed and derided by the other competitors. But through their skill, their courage, and their unwavering commitment to their values, they had proven themselves to be true leaders, not just of their own ship, but of the entire fleet. As the race entered its final stages, the Odyssey found itself in a strong position, buoyed by the support and goodwill of its fellow racers. The challenges that lay ahead were still formidable. The deadly gaseous nebulae, the gravitational anomalies, the treacherous asteroid fields. But the crew faced them with a new sense of confidence and determination. They had come so far, not just in terms of distance traveled, but in terms of the bonds they had forged and the respect they had earned. They were no longer just a battered old ship and a ragtag crew of humans. They were the pride of the fleet, the standard bearers of a new era of cooperation and unity. And as they raced on towards the finish line, the crew of the Odyssey knew that, whatever the outcome of the race, they had already achieved something greater than any trophy or accolade. They had shown the galaxy what it meant to be human, what it meant to stand together in the face of adversity, to reach out a helping hand even to those who had once been rivals. The old divisions and animosities of the past were falling away, replaced by a new spirit of fellowship and common purpose. And at the heart of it all was the Odyssey and her valiant crew, leading the way into a brighter future for all the sentient species of the galaxy. The race continued, but it was no longer just a competition. It was a celebration, a testament to the power of unity and the indomitable spirit of those who dared to dream beyond the stars. And the Odyssey, the once underestimated human ship, was at the forefront, blazing a trail into a new era of galactic history. The pirates had been defeated, the Xanthians had been saved, and the race had been transformed. But for Captain Riker and her crew, the greatest challenge and the greatest triumph still lay ahead. And they were ready to face whatever the cosmos could throw at them, ready to prove once and for all that humanity belonged among the stars. The intergalactic race had entered its final and most perilous stage, a harrowing gauntlet through the heart of the rift, a treacherous region of space where the very fabric of reality was torn and twisted. Here, the laws of physics held no sway, and ships that ventured too close risked being lost forever in the swirling chaos of warped space-time. For the crew of the Odyssey, the rift represented the ultimate test of their skill, courage, and unity. They knew that their battered old ship, for all its resilience and adaptability, would be pushed to its very limits by the mind-bending forces that lurked within the rift. But they also knew that they had come too far to turn back now, that the only way forward was through the heart of the maelstrom. As the ships approached the boundary of the rift, Captain Riker called her crew together for a final briefing. They gathered in the Odyssey's cramped mess hall, a motley assortment of humans from all walks of life, united by their shared determination to see this mission through to the end. "We've faced a lot of challenges on this race," Riker began, her voice steady and sure. "We've battled pirates, braved solar storms, and forged alliances with those who were once our rivals. But all of that was just a prelude to what lies ahead." She paused, letting her words sink in. The crew looked back at her, their faces etched with a mix of fear and resolve. "The rift is unlike anything we've encountered before," she continued. "It's a place where reality itself is warped and distorted, where the very laws of physics break down. But I know that if any ship can make it through, it's the Odyssey. And if any crew can rise to this challenge, it's all of you." The crew nodded, their determination hardening into a steely resolve. They knew that they would need to work together like never before, to rely on each other's strengths and compensate for each other's weaknesses. But they also knew that they were ready, that they had been forged into a true team by the trials and triumphs of the race. As the Odyssey approached the boundary of the rift, the ship's sensors began to go haywire, the readings fluctuating wildly as the warped space-time played havoc with the instruments. But Riker and her crew were undeterred. They had prepared for this moment, had studied the scant data available on the rift, and had developed contingency plans for every possible scenario. The ship plunged into the maelstrom, the view screen filling with a swirling kaleidoscope of colors and shapes that defied comprehension. The crew clung to their stations, fighting the disorientation and nausea that threatened to overwhelm them as the ship bucked and twisted in the grip of the rift's chaotic forces. But even as the Odyssey struggled to maintain its course, the other ships in the race began to falter and fail. One by one, they were consumed by the rift, their hulls crushed and their crews lost to the void. Some tried to turn back, to flee the madness of the rift, but it was too late. The swirling energies had them in their grip, and there was no escape. Only the Odyssey, with its rugged construction and jury-rigged modifications, seemed able to withstand the rift's fury. But even it was being pushed to the brink, its hull groaning under the strain, its systems flickering and failing as the crew fought to keep the ship on course. In the midst of the chaos, Riker saw a flicker of movement on the view screen. It was another ship, a sleek Xanthian craft, its hull buckled and twisted by the forces of the rift. The ship was drifting, its engines dead, its crew no doubt lost to the void. For a moment, Riker was tempted to ignore the stricken ship, to focus on her own survival and the survival of her crew. But she knew that she could not, that the values that had brought them this far, compassion, unity, and a commitment to life, could not be abandoned now, even in the face of the greatest peril. She made the decision in an instant, barking orders to her crew as she brought the Odyssey alongside the Xanthian ship. It was a tremendous risk, the two ships buffeted by the rift's chaotic energies, but somehow, through a combination of skill and sheer determination, they managed to dock, the Odyssey's airlock sealing against the Xanthian hull with a shuddering clang. The rescue was quick and efficient, the Odyssey's crew working with practiced precision to evacuate the wounded Xanthians and bring them aboard. But even as they worked, the rift's fury was growing, the swirling energies threatening to tear the two ships apart. With a final, desperate effort, the Odyssey managed to disengage from the Xanthian ship, its engines flaring to life as it fought to escape the rift's grip. For a heart-stopping moment, it seemed as though the ship would be dragged back into the maelstrom, its hull buckling under the immense strain. But then, with a bone-jarring lurch, the Odyssey broke free, the swirling colors of the rift receding behind it as it shot forward into clear space. The crew let out a ragged cheer, their relief and elation palpable as they realized that they had done the impossible, that they had not only survived the rift, but had managed to save another ship in the process. As the Odyssey limped towards the finish line, its hull battered and its systems strained to the breaking point, the crew knew that they had accomplished something incredible. They had not only proved the doubters wrong, had not only shown that humanity was a force to be reckoned with on the galactic stage, but had done so while holding true to their deepest values. They had faced the worst that the universe could throw at them, had stared into the heart of chaos and madness, and had emerged stronger, more united, and more determined than ever. They were the crew of the Odyssey, the pride of Earth, and they had just made history. As the ship crossed the finish line, the crew erupted into cheers and tears of joy, the tension and fear of the rift giving way to an overwhelming sense of accomplishment and camaraderie. They had done it, had completed the intergalactic race against all odds, and had done so not just as a crew, but as a family. And as the other ships limped across the finish line behind them, the crews battered and bruised, but alive thanks to the Odyssey's selfless actions, Riker knew that they had achieved something even greater than victory. They had shown the galaxy what it meant to be human, what it meant to stand together in the face of adversity, to reach out a helping hand even in the darkest of times. The intergalactic race had been won, but more than that, a new era of unity and cooperation had been born. And at the forefront of this new era was the Odyssey and her crew, a shining beacon of hope and resilience in a galaxy that had for too long been divided by mistrust and fear. As the ship docked at the winner's platform, Riker and her crew stepped out to a hero's welcome, the cheers of the gathered crowds washing over them like a tidal wave. They had come so far, had faced so much, but in the end, they had triumphed not just as racers, but as ambassadors of a brighter future. The old era of division and conflict was over. A new age had begun, an age in which the sentient species of the galaxy would stand together as one, united by the values of compassion, cooperation, and an unshakable commitment to the sanctity of life. And at the vanguard of this new age was the Odyssey, the little ship that could, the vessel that had proved once, and for all that the human spirit was a force to be reckoned with, a light in the darkness that would guide the way forward for generations to come. With the intergalactic race behind them and their victory secured, the crew of the Odyssey found themselves at the center of a whirlwind of attention and adulation. The story of their triumph, of how they had overcome impossible odds and forged a new era of unity and cooperation, spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Everywhere they went, they were greeted as heroes, as the saviors who had not only won the race, but had done so while upholding the highest values of compassion and selflessness. The Xanthians, once their fiercest rivals, now hailed them as the greatest of allies, the humans who had risked everything to save them from certain doom. But for Captain Riker and her crew, the true reward was not in the accolades or the fame, but in the knowledge that they had made a real difference. They had shown the galaxy that there was another way, a path of cooperation and mutual respect that could lead to a brighter future for all. As the Odyssey prepared to make its long journey back to Earth, Riker found herself reflecting on all that had happened, on the incredible journey that had brought them to this moment. She thought of the challenges they had faced, the obstacles they had overcome, and the bonds they had forged in the heat of battle and the depths of space. She thought of her crew, the brave men and women who had stood by her side through it all, who had given everything they had to make this mission a success. They had come from all walks of life, from all corners of Earth, but they had come together as one, united by a common purpose and an unshakable commitment to each other. As the ship lifted off from the winner's platform, the cheers of the crowd still ringing in their ears, Riker felt a sense of pride and accomplishment that she had never known before. They had done it, had achieved the impossible, and had done so not just for themselves, but for all of humanity. The journey back to Earth was long and arduous, the ship still bearing the scars of its battles and the strain of its incredible feat. But the crew faced it all with the same determination and resilience that had carried them through the race, working tirelessly to keep the ship running and to support each other through the long weeks of travel. And as they finally approached the blue and green orb of their home planet, the crew felt a sense of homecoming that was almost overwhelming. They had been away for so long, had seen and experienced things that most humans could scarcely imagine. But now they were back to the world that had given them life and purpose, back to the people they loved and the lives they had left behind. As the Odyssey touched down on the landing pad, the crew was greeted by a sea of humanity, a vast crowd of cheering, weeping, laughing people who had come from all over the world to welcome them home. There were families and friends, dignitaries and scientists, all united in their joy and their pride at what the Odyssey and her crew had accomplished. And as Riker stepped off the ship, her eyes shining with tears of happiness and relief, she knew that this was only the beginning. The intergalactic race had been won, but the real work was just starting. The work of building a new future, of forging a new path for humanity, and for all the sentient species of the galaxy. She looked out over the crowd, at the faces of her crew, and the faces of all those who had come to welcome them home. And she knew that they were ready to take on this new challenge, to be the pioneers and the leaders that the galaxy so desperately needed. For they were the crew of the Odyssey, the heroes who had defied the odds and changed the course of history. They had shown the galaxy what it meant to be human, what it meant to have courage and compassion and an unshakable commitment to the greater good. And as the celebrations began, as the music played and the fireworks lit up the sky, Riker knew that they would never forget this moment, this triumph that had been earned through blood and sweat and tears. They would never forget the bonds they had forged, the friendships they had made, the love they had found in the depths of space. For they were more than just a crew now. They were a family that had been forged in the crucible of the cosmos, a family that would stand together no matter what the future might bring. And as the Odyssey stood proud and tall on the landing pad, its battered hull gleaming in the sunlight, Riker knew that it was more than just a ship. It was a symbol of the indomitable human spirit, of the power of unity and cooperation in the face of adversity. The galaxy had been changed forever by what they had done. The old barriers of mistrust and fear had been broken down, replaced by a new spirit of fellowship and common purpose. And at the center of it all was the Odyssey, the little ship that had started it all. The vessel that had carried the hopes and dreams of an entire species on its shoulders. As the crew disembarked and made their way through the cheering crowds, Riker felt a sense of pride and humility that was almost overwhelming. They had achieved something incredible, something that would be remembered for generations to come. But they had not done it alone. They had done it together, as a team, as a family. And that, more than anything else, was the true legacy of the Odyssey, the true meaning of their incredible journey. The galaxy would never be the same, but it would be better, stronger, more united than ever before. And it was all thanks to the courage and the compassion of one small ship and her crew, the heroes who had dared to dream of a better tomorrow. As Riker took one last look at the Odyssey, at the ship that had been their home and their salvation, she felt a sense of gratitude and wonder that would stay with her for the rest of her life. They had done it, had achieved the impossible, and had done so not just for themselves, but for all of humanity. And as the crew made their way into the waiting arms of their loved ones, as the celebrations continued long into the night, Riker knew that this was only the beginning. The future was waiting, a future of endless possibilities and infinite wonder, a future that they had helped to create. The crew of the Odyssey had set out to win a race, but in the end, they had achieved something far greater. They had won the respect and admiration of the galaxy, had forged a new path for all to follow, and had proven once and for all that the human spirit was a force to be reckoned with, a light in the darkness that would guide the way forward for generations to come. As the celebrations of the Odyssey's victory began to wind down and life started to return to normal, Captain Riker found herself reflecting on the incredible journey that had brought them to this point. The ship had been through so much, had faced challenges and dangers that would have broken lesser crews. But they had persevered, had come together as a team and a family, and had emerged stronger and more united than ever before. For Riker, the true meaning of their victory lay not in the trophy they had won or the accolades they had received, but in the bonds they had forged and the lives they had touched along the way. She thought of the Xanthians, once their fiercest rivals, now their closest allies. She thought of the pirates they had defeated, the lives they had saved, and the hope they had brought to a galaxy that had for too long been mired in conflict and mistrust. But most of all, she thought of her crew, the brave men and women who had stood by her side through it all. They had come from all walks of life, from all corners of Earth, but they had come together as one, united by a common purpose and an unshakable commitment to each other. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, the crew of the Odyssey found themselves adjusting to their new roles as galactic ambassadors and peacemakers. They were called upon to mediate disputes, to broker treaties, and to spread the message of unity and cooperation to a galaxy that was still healing from centuries of conflict. It was not an easy task, and there were times when the crew felt overwhelmed by the enormity of the challenge before them. But they faced it all with the same determination and resilience that had carried them through the race, drawing strength from each other and from the knowledge that they were making a real difference in the lives of countless beings across the galaxy. As the months turned into years, the Odyssey became a symbol of hope and inspiration to people everywhere. Its battered hull, once a source of derision and mockery, was now a badge of honor, a testament to the incredible feats that could be achieved through courage, compassion, and an unshakable commitment to the greater good. And at the center of it all was Captain Riker, the woman who had led her crew through the greatest adventure of their lives. She had grown and changed over the course of their incredible journey, had learned to trust in herself and in the strength of her team. And now, as she looked out over the vast expanse of the galaxy, she knew that she was ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. For the crew of the Odyssey, the intergalactic race had been just the beginning. They had won the race, but they had also won something far more valuable: the chance to make a real difference in the lives of others, to be the pioneers and the leaders that the galaxy so desperately needed. And so, as they set out on their next adventure, their hearts full of hope and their spirits high, the crew of the Odyssey knew that they were ready for whatever lay ahead. They had each other, and they had the knowledge that they were part of something greater than themselves, something that would endure long after they were gone. Years turned into decades, and the legend of the Odyssey and her crew only grew. They became the stuff of myth and legend, the heroes who had changed the course of galactic history and had set the stage for a new era of peace and prosperity. But for those who had been there, who had lived through the incredible highs and lows of that fateful race, the true legacy of the Odyssey was something far more personal. It was the bonds they had forged, the friendships they had made, and the love they had found in the depths of space. They had started out as a crew, but they had become a family that would stand together no matter what the future might bring. And as they looked back on their incredible journey, they knew that they had been part of something truly special, something that would stay with them for the rest of their lives. For the galaxy, the Odyssey had been a symbol of hope and unity, a beacon of light in the darkness of space. But for her crew, she had been so much more. She had been their home, their sanctuary, and their salvation, the place where they had learned to trust in themselves and in each other, and had discovered the true meaning of courage and sacrifice. And so, as the years passed, and the galaxy moved on to new challenges and new adventures, the crew of the Odyssey held fast to the memories of their incredible journey. They told their stories to their children and their grandchildren, passing down the legacy of the little ship that had changed the course of history and had brought hope to a galaxy in need. And whenever they looked up at the stars, they knew that the Odyssey was still out there, still exploring the vast reaches of space, still carrying the hopes and dreams of all who had been touched by her incredible journey. For she was more than just a ship, more than just a symbol. She was the embodiment of the human spirit, of the unquenchable thirst for knowledge and adventure that had driven humanity to the stars and beyond. And as long as there were those who dared to dream, who dared to reach for the stars, and to strive for a better tomorrow, the legacy of the Odyssey would endure, a shining beacon of hope and inspiration for generations to come. So ended the incredible tale of the Odyssey and her crew, the heroes who had defied the odds and had changed the course of galactic history. Their story would be told and retold, passed down from generation to generation, a testament to the power of the human spirit and the indomitable will of those who dared to dream. And though the galaxy might change and the stars might shift, the legacy of the Odyssey would endure, a reminder to all who came after of the incredible feats that could be achieved through courage, compassion, and an unshakable commitment to the greater good. For in the end, it was not the destination that mattered, but the journey itself and the incredible bonds that had been forged along the way. And as the crew of the Odyssey looked back on their incredible adventure, they knew that they had been part of something truly special, something that would stay with them for the rest of their lives. The end.